Young man, I'd say.
Steve, how's your father? Is he better?
About the same, I guess.
He's been away from work for weeks, and when I call your house, your mother won't let me talk to him.
I haven't seen him either.
This is a fine kettle of fish, I must say, though I am glad to see you taking an interest in the business in your dad's absence.
Who are you?
Aw, Steve, I didn't want to believe that amnesia hokum. Now you're saying you don't remember your pal Pat O'Reilly? You may come to realize that this business is not for everybody. Just ask your poor, ill dad. It takes dedication and a strong stomach. A lot of times, when I'm finished scrubbing up and digging the bits of intestine out from my fingernails, I must confess I don't have much appetite for red meat. But red meat is one of the principal food groups, and you've got to have it. So when you can do this all day and help yourself to a juicy red steak afterwards, then by golly, you can call yourself a butcher. Of course, amnesia would certainly help that, wouldn't it?
Look, I'm not kidding about the amnesia. Why won't anyone believe me?
Well, you always were such a kidder, Steve.
Funny how that's beginning to sound like a stock answer. Like it was coached.
You sure are acting like a kidder, son. With your dad ill, you're gonna need to start behaving like an adult, especially if you're gonna take over the family business. You may come to realize that this business is not for everybody. Just ask your poor, ill dad. It takes dedication and a strong stomach. A lot of times, then by course, what exactly is wrong with your dad?
I don't know.
I wouldn't worry about it too much, Steve. You should be thinking about running the family business one day. That, getting into the lodge. Don't be such a stranger, Steve, and my best to your dad. Can't talk.
Come to think of it, I don't see any cattle around here. Where do you keep the animals?
Does it matter? The end product is all the customer cares about, Steve. And we only carry the finest meat, only the juiciest cuts. Once you take over the business, you'll realize the importance of maintaining quality while cutting costs. We know what we're doing here, Steve. If we didn't, would the lodge use us to cater their affairs? Listen, Steve, I've never met a group of individuals as upstanding as the Order. You ought to think about joining the lodge. You really should. There are certain tricks of the trade, Steve. Once your dad gets better and you start working in here cutting up the meat, you'll be privy to them. There's always cheaper, better ways to do things, if you're creative.
Come to...
Only. What? You'll realize if we did. Your father's very particular about the profit, Steve. No freebies for anyone. But seeing how you're his son, if you'll bring written permission from your father, I'll give you the meat. The Order of the Harvest Moon sponsors a weenie roast on the lodge grounds every summer, which we cater, though they tend to get their meat elsewhere the rest of the year.
I wonder why.
Heck, the best way to find out is to sign up with them. They're a great organization, Steve. They do wonderful work, just like us butchers. They do what needs to be done and expect nothing in return.
Then how do they support themselves? Membership dues?
From what I hear, the work is its own reward. Don't be such a stranger, Steve, and my best to your dad.
my goodness. Class, this is Stephen. He used to be a student here at Gein Memorial. Say hello, class. They're reticent. The educator's gravest problem today is the apathy of the students.
What's wrong with their heads?
I can tell you in one word, Stephen. Discipline. Thank goodness you weren't a sulky bear. You were always a smiley bear.
Then you remember me?
Not as such. So many pupils, Stephen. They come and they go. But I can always spot those who were nice boys. You can tell from the forehead. The lobes. Right, class? I'm glad you stopped by, Stephen. Would you care to say a few words to the class about civic responsibility?
Not really. I was just passing through.
Oh, but you must, Stephen. A positive role model might be just the thing to inspire these little monsters. Stephen, have you any questions for me? Or shall I continue with class? Ask away then.
Can you tell me anything about Harvest?
Harvest was founded by the Order of the Harvest Moon about 100 years ago.
For what purpose?
Why, I'm sure you'd have to ask them. You'll find the members of the Order at the lodge.
This lodge. What do you know about it?
The building itself, like Harvest, was constructed with a specific purpose in mind. That noble intent is known only to those within the Order. You're at about the right age to join them, Stephen, and you will do so if you care about your future. We don't practice corporal punishment here. I've never believed in that old adage, spare the rod and spoil the child. A rod is too thin, but a baseball bat... That bridges the generation gap quite nicely. Oh dear, Colonel Monroe is conducting another air raid drill. Everyone into the hallway, quick!
If an A-bomb hits, what good is it gonna do to duck and cover?
My stars, that was exciting. Stop by anytime, Stephen.
Steve, good of you to drop by, big guy. Haven't seen you since graduation. A lot of changes, I hear.
You could say that.
Good, good. That's a nice part of my job. Turning fine young men and women out into the world, and then watching them prosper. Of course, I was able to reach more people at the old Sentinel, God bless her. But then again, I never got to see the results of my work up close before.
Who are you?
You know very well I'm Mr. Harold, the principal of Gein Memorial. Steve, I've heard about this amnesia nonsense. I had hoped you'd be in the lodge by now, fine young fellow like yourself. But now, I think maybe you need a little more quality time. Boy, I sure miss the old newspaper. The sheriff never did investigate that fire properly. Call it a newspaper man's instinct, though I can't imagine why Sheriff Dwayne would cover up anything. I mean, the only ones who stood to profit from the newspaper going out of business was the owner of the TV station, and Mr. McKnight had an airtight alibi. Still, if not for the fire, I never would have wound up as principal of Gein Memorial.
Gein Memorial. Sounds like a cemetery or a hospital, not a school.
This institution was named for a great man, whose first name escapes me. He epitomized the great potential within us all, big guy. I hear there's an honorary plaque commemorating him within the lodge. Big guy, barring some quality time, the greatest gift I can bestow upon you as your former principal is a word of advice. Join the Order of the Harvest Moon at any cost. Within the lodge lies your future, and without dust. Surely mine is the most important position in Harvest. The ability to mold young minds. That's power. You might think Sheriff Dwayne's the most important man here, big guy. But he only deals with my failures. When I do my job right, the sheriff never sees a thing.
Why do you keep calling me big guy?
A sign of respect, lad. As principal, my station is higher than yours now, but you never know what the future holds, so you should always hedge your bets and pay tribute to your inferiors. You never know who will come to power, or who, even now, wields it behind the scenes. For all I know, you might already be a member of the Order, with access to the Lodge. If that were the case, you'd be my superior, and I'd be all that much better off having shown you respect and spent some quality time with you.
What do you mean, quality time?
Some, like Miss Whaley, favor stern discipline, corporal punishment, as a means of socialization. Myself, I temper discipline with love. Quality time can be such a warm, sharing experience. After just a few sessions, you'd stop this amnesia nonsense and become a productive member of society and a fit candidate for the Lodge. You turned out pretty good, except for that amnesia nonsense.
It's not nonsense.
Well, you always were a kidder, Steve. Maybe you need a little straightening out. Oh, the things I could do to you. You'd be a much finer young man with just a little quality time. Drop in again soon. Adult education is a wonderful thing, as is adult quality time.
Stay tuned, buckaroos. There's more to come on Range Riders Cowboy Roundup. So don't go away. And what's your name, hombre?
Steve.
Steve's a swell name. My dog's name is Steve. Would you like my autograph, Steve? Here you go, then. Violence? What about it? Violence is as American as apple pie and low SAT scores. Where would we be right now if the cowboys hadn't gone out west and butchered innocent people to steal their land? Answer me that, Mr. Know-It-All.
But what about studies that have shown that children become more violent when watching violence?
Buckaroo, I rip the guts out of godless heathen Injuns. Most kids don't see godless heathen Injuns on a regular basis, and if they do, they better either get their eyes checked or do like old Range Rider and shoot the bejesus out of them, lest they want to go untreated for psychotic hallucinations, or wind up with their scalps hanging from a buckskin belt. Oh, shit! Ow! Shit on a stickaroo! The parents that are griping about violence on TV are the same parents that go outside in the morning to fetch their papers, secure in the knowledge that they won't get an arrow through the noodle because the violence they hate so much done cleared the Injuns out of the neighborhood.
Yeah, civilization has benefited from violence. But should violence be treated as entertainment?
Check my rating, son. Violence is entertainment. I just put it on the air. If some kid watches, that says something about the kid, not me. Now, excuse me, we're going back on the air.
Hey, Sport. This is a private office.
Yeah, I know, Mr.
McKnight. I own and operate this station. Have you brought me some news for tonight's broadcast, or...
I've lost my memory. That's news.
The hell it is! You always were a kidder, Steve. Any real news to tell me?
Actually, I was just wanting to know more about the TV station.
Hey, WHAR is the only television station in Harvest. Since the old Sentinel went under, what with the newspaper building burning down and all, we're golden. Nobody competes with us, Sport. Hey now, Sport, that's an irresponsible allegation. I had nothing to do with that fire. Just because WHAR may have benefited from it and I danced on the ashes a little doesn't mean I torched the place. You can ask Sheriff Dwayne if you have any doubts.
You seem awfully touchy on the subject, Sport.
I'm touchy when people try to muscle their way into my business. I'd appreciate it if you'd leave my office and don't come back. Don't hurry back.
Hi, what's your name?
Karen,
What are you doing?
playing. My mom is working, so I gotta stay out of her hair. Wanna play?
Not now, maybe later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Oh, Steve, what are you doing sneaking up on me like that? God, for a second I thought you were Mr. Johnson. What would you like to order? Sure. And my name's Edna Fitzpatrick. I'm not the one with amnesia.
Then you believe me.
Well, you always were a kidder, Steve.
I guess I've changed. I'm not kidding.
Now, Steve, faking amnesia won't help anything. If you don't want to marry Stephanie, then don't. But don't play sick, for heaven's sake. I'd expect that from Karen, not an 18-year-old. You've met Karen, my 8-year-old. Other than the diner, she's all I have. There isn't a nicer girl in Harvest than Stephanie, Steve. You should be grateful that she's promised you her hand.
I don't remember that happening, Edna.
Honestly, you men are so childish. I don't know what it is about marriage that turns even the bravest man into a coward. I was going to marry Karen's father when he just up and ran out on me one night. I heard that he joined the lodge, but if he did, I never saw him come out again. Even Sheriff Dwayne wasn't able to find out what happened to him. Mr. Johnson has a liking for me. I'd call it a crush, but that's too innocent a word. He's a bitter man with too much time on his hands. He's never gotten over being rejected by the lodge, and there's something unwholesome in the way he looks at me. I'm always glad when the sheriff comes in every day at noon. Sheriff Dwayne is such a dear man. And I don't just say that because he's my most regular customer. Every single day, rain or shine, he comes in here at noon for lunch. Sits in the same spot, too. That's at least an hour every day when I can be sure Mr. Johnson won't show up. You know, it's funny. Dwayne never comes in here with Deputy Loomis, but he frequently dines with Mr. McKnight. You know, the owner of the TV station. Sometimes he comes in with Postmaster Boyle, but somehow I don't think they're friends. Though I see them together a lot, Boyle and the sheriff never act very friendly towards each other. Almost like there's some kind of bond between them besides friendship, though what it might be I can't imagine. Maybe Sheriff Dwayne resents the fact that he's never been able to get into the lodge, though that's not Boyle's fault. He just hands out the applications. He doesn't decide who gets admitted. The lodge is the repository of all wisdom. You should join the Order of the Harvest Moon, Steve, and soon.
Why? For God's sake, what is it about this place?
The wheat ripens and waits not for the scythe. The farmer who waits too long, it were better that he use the scythe to rip his own stomach out than to stay his scythe when the wheat ripens. The harvest moon wanes and then comes winter. An empty belly, the body sun's belly, gurgling within or bloody on the ground. What does it benefit a man if he gains his soul and loses the world? You hunger. Feed yourself before it's too late. Oh.
Edna?
Steve. What happened? Were we talking about Boyle? Or was it Karen?
You seemed strange there for a minute.
I'm sorry. I'm under a lot of stress. Running this diner all alone. Forgive me. Stop by anytime, Steve.
That's the evidence room, where we store items lifted from crime scenes. It's kept locked at all times. There's things in there that could make people jump through hoops, if I wanted. Hello, Steve. Let me introduce myself. I'm Sheriff Dwayne, and this here's Loomis.
Pleasure, I reckon.
Then, we haven't met before?
Of course we have, but I heard about your alleged amnesia and figured I'd play along. I sure hope this is just a prank. and not the start of some insanity plea. Keep your nose clean, or you'll wind up in jail, and that's no place to hold a wedding. I understand you witnessed Miss Whaley's dispensing a little discipline at the school, and she thinks you may be feeling a mite bent about it. You need to forget about it, boy. I don't interfere in school discipline. I leave that to the professionals, and so should you. Heck, there isn't a psychiatrist around who'd disagree about what a calming influence a dent in the head can be. You can't argue with science, Steve. It's bigger than all of us. Why do you want to break your poor mama's heart with all this amnesia bunk?
I'm telling you the truth. Why won't anyone believe me?
Well, you've always been a kidder, Steve.
Yeah, so everybody keeps telling me.
Boy, you need to stop all this funning and get serious. You've got a wedding coming up soon. Heck, you should be thinking about your career and about joining the lodge. Amnesia or no, you can't have forgotten you're about to marry the prettiest little thing in Harvest. I think you and Stephanie are perfect for each other. I just hope her father's disappointment doesn't spoil everything.
Disappointment?
Mr. Potsdam wants to hold the wedding in the lodge, but he'll never get in. Like all the rest, he's always hanging around the post office the first day of the month, waiting for Boyle to bring out that month's lodge applications. And there's always a long line, never enough applications to go around, and even if you do get an application, chances are you're right out of luck. Fewer called to the order and even less accepted. And Potsdam, well, they've turned him down so many times, unless he does something radical, he'll never get in. Crime-wise, nothing much has happened in Harvest since the newspaper fire. Oh, sure, every week or so we get the odd transient dropping dead, but other than that, it gets pretty slow around here. Sure, you remember. The Sentinel building burned down about 6 months ago.
That's what I'm telling you, Sheriff. I don't remember anything. Why won't you believe I have amnesia?
Well, you've always been a kidder, Steve. Anyway, the fireman said the fire was caused by arson. I never caught the perp, though.
But we found the gas can that was used. Yes, sirree, Bob. It's in the evidence room.
Loomis, that's classified. Darn it.
How many times you gonna have to tell me to keep my mouth shut, I wonder? Sorry, boss.
You've got the gas can in the evidence room? Did you dust it for prints?
You've been watching too much TV, Steve. Heck, who can make out all those curvy lines anyhow? No, it's sitting in there gathering dust, clean as the day we found it, just in case I ever need a spare gas can. That case is closed, Steve. Loomis here is my deputy. Without him, I'd have a hard time keeping the peace, or at least taking a lunch break. Mainly Loomis answers the phone and babysits the office while I'm out, though sometimes he likes to go in the back and stain the jail mattress. Isn't that right, Loomis?
Oh, now, Sheriff, what you gotta go and say that for?
Loomis has more than his share of problems. I wouldn't invite him to the wedding. Or, if you do, make sure he doesn't catch the garter. That could be embarrassing.
Oh, I wouldn't do nothing, Dwayne. But I sure would like a little garter that'd been around Stephanie's thigh. Oh, well, that'd be right special.
Amnesia or no, you can't. There. I don't mind telling you, I'd never get anything done if not for the Lodge's efforts. To join the Order of the Harvest Moon is the highest dream of everyone in Harvest. Like I said, unless you get an application on the first day of the month, you're generally out of luck. Stop by the post office and talk to Postmaster Boyle. You never know. He might have a spare application laying around. Stop on by any time, Steve.
Anything I can help you with? Help yourself. Speaking of which, you're real lucky to be marrying Stephanie. She don't look like a good woman. I just hope she don't turn out like Mrs. Loomis, or mercy forbid Mrs. Phelps. Good women can be awful hard on a man's needs, don't you know? Oh gosh darn, she's purty. Kinda like a gal I seen on some of them French postcards they used to make. Used to be, I'd take them things, go back into jail if nobody was there and kind of look 'em over one-handed, fold some towels. That was afore Mrs. Loomis. Oh gosh, I wish I had some of them girly pictures, but Mrs. Loomis won't let me keep 'em in the house. I still remember the time she caught me holding some of them pictures up with one hand. She took the broom to me. I howled like a hound dog, the broom going up and down, flashing straw and blood and straw, and I was crying so bad, and it was so hard I had to crawl under the porch naked with all the black widow spiders, and I got bit something fierce, little fangs digging into my bare behind all over. I ask you, is that any way to treat a man? And Mrs. Phelps and the sheriff don't make it no easier neither. Mrs. Phelps down at the general store don't help things none. She's got them special picture books, the one with the ladies. But she won't sell me none on account of she knows my wife, Mrs. Loomis. Dadgum if that don't burn my britches. If I even ask about 'em, she tells Mrs. Loomis and I get the broom. Enough to break a man's heart, her burning my French postcards and me unable to replace them. A man's got needs, don't you know? Course, I don't necessarily mean French postcards. That's just what we called them in my day. Any kind of girly picture book, the kind men like, would be just dandy. I'd be right grateful, kiddo, if you were to bring me one. Why, you sure ought to appreciate what a man's got to do sometimes in a parked car, or a waist-high knothole in a tree, or jail cell at noon. Matter of fact, Mrs. Phelps got no reason not to sell you some of them French postcard girly picture books. If you can get any, you see clear to part with them. Bring 'em round when the sheriff's at lunch, and I'd be obliged. Any time, kiddo.
Please excuse the mess. They did wonders with the upstairs bedroom, but this garage defies color coordination.
Leave the light off, please. You never change lighting in the middle of a sketch. And besides, fluorescent lighting is so harsh.
I don't converse on the job, Steve. Don't bother me, I'm sketching. Oh, look what you made me do!
Hello, Steve. Welcome to the House of Flame, as we like to call it. Oh, cut it out, Spots, honestly. Once he gets barking, a good piece of meat is the only way to shut him up. There you go, Spot. So, Steve, bet you don't remember me. Heard about that short in the old wiring. I'm Fire Marshal Sparky, head of your fire department. Don't be silly. Everyone thinks that amnesia kick is a scream. Well, you always were a kidder, Steve. Besides, it's my job to keep abreast of developments in the community, to better serve you, the public. I'm sure you'll be thrilled when you learn of the many civic improvements we have planned for your fire department.
Such as?
Well, don't tell any of the others, but I've secured a bolt of the most divine moth material. I've hidden it because, well, if any of these Marys got a hold of it, it'd be gone in a jiffy. So I'd rather keep it hush-hush. I'm going to make new drapes for the firehouse, and if I have any left, cross your fingers, I'm going to make everyone matching mauve pillow cozies.
Those are civic improvements.
Don't be such a party pooper, Steve. We're talking about art. Besides, we haven't had a fire in Harvest since the newspaper building burned down. Though I'll admit that the Wasp Woman's place is one big accident waiting to happen. Isn't that right, Spots? Art enriches the community, Steve. No less than a pulsing fire hose, or a fireman beating down a blazing door. So what if we're drawing a nude man? So what if all we ever draw is a nude man, or the same nude man over and over in all sorts of provocative positions? Context, not content. Process, not subject. Don't be so gauche, Steve. It's beneath you. A dreadful affair. You wouldn't think that a brick and steel building with a sprinkler system could go up that quickly. Oh, please. Dwayne was glad enough to see the thing go up, and so was McKnight. If you could get into that safe in his wall... Forget it. Look, Steve, as far as I know, the fire was an accident. Let's just leave it at that. Now don't you go moving. Some people think all we do is sit around, sketching fetching examples of manhood for our own amusement. Nothing could be further from the truth. Why, just the other day we cited Ted to a crumb for fire code violations. All the dried out paper wasp nests clustered around our wooden house, why, it's a chemlog just waiting for the right faggot. Believe me, none of us wants to see another fiasco like the Sentinel fire. Bye-bye.
A girly magazine? Why, Steve, I'm surprised at you. I'd expect that sort of thing from Deputy Loomis, but never from you. He's always coming in here oogling the girly magazines behind my counter. Darned if I'd sell him one, though. I know his wife, for heaven's sakes.
Well, will you sell me one?
I certainly will, Steve. That kind of interest is healthy for a young fellow. Steers him away from being a fireman.
Oh, oh, by George. Oh, by Jiminy. Oh, this here's the real thing. Oh, can I have it? Oh, oh, thank you, Steve. Excuse me, kiddo. I gotta go check the jail for clean towels.
Hello, Steve. Where's Loomis?
He'll be coming around the mountain if he comes. Oh, oh, that's it.
Loomis, damn you!
Wait, no, 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 no! No!
Straining up the mattress again! Folding up the towels! Child snake!
No!
Sorry, son. No time to talk. It's been missing for months now. I keep meaning to get another, but, well, the button's very distinctive. I'd have to file an S-411 with Washington to get another, and I just don't need the extra paperwork. Sure wish I could find it. Next time you post, don't forget the zip code. My button. Why, I lost that months ago. Where did you find it?
Funny thing, that. I found it in the ashes. At the newspaper building.
What are you implying? That I had something to do with setting the fire? Preposterous. Why, 100 people must have visited that site since the fire. You just try showing that button to Sheriff Dwayne, son. He'll laugh you right out of his office. What does this mean? This is unexpected and awkward. But my luck's been bad ever since Dwayne found that darn gas can at the newspaper building the day after the fire. He has this insane notion that it's mine. I pay him not because I'm guilty, but because I don't want him slurring my good name around Harvest.
Oh, naturally.
You know, he keeps that gas can in the evidence room at his office. I'd be really grateful to whoever could fetch me that can. Grateful enough to provide him with a lodge application. Oh, and Steve, you'll keep this to yourself, if you're smart. Oh my God, I can't believe it. After all this time.
Where's my application, Boyle?
Here, take it. With my thanks. You know, this morning as I was making my rounds, I noticed an awful lot of television aerials on the roofs. Seems like more and more each day. You got me this can just in time, youngster. I may have need of it again.
What do you mean?
There's another reason why Sheriff Dwayne didn't investigate the Sentinel fire. If you'd like to get something else on the blackmailing bastard, check around the television station. While you still can. My button. Why, I lost that months ago.
Funny thing, that.
What are you implying? And what if I did? I guess I'd be pretty grateful to anyone who could help get me off the hook.
How?
Oh, and...
Okay. That's a ticket.
If you don't get out of here right now, I'm having you arrested for trespassing.
Hello there, Steve. Here for lunch?
No, just here looking around, though I'm not entirely sure where here is.
Oh, I forgot. You're playing your little amnesia prank. Well, boy, this is DNA's Diner. Isn't that right, Edna?
Don't listen to Sheriff Dwayne. This is Edna's Diner. But ever since the E burned out on the sign, they've been giving me a hard time.
Now, don't be like that, Edna. It's a great place to eat, which is good, since it's the only place to eat in Harvest. Stop on by any time, Steve. Now, where did you get these, Steve? I guess not. Of course. I could kill you right now.
But you won't, because I've got the original checks, which prove that Boyle burned down the newspaper building, and that you've been blackmailing him to keep it quiet. I've hidden them. Anything happens to me, they might turn up. Soon.
Uh-huh. All right. You've got me, boy. Tell you what. And give you one of Sheriff Dwayne's custom deluxe get-out-of-jail-free cards. That is, if I catch you doing something, I'll look the other way. Once. That's the deal. How about it? All right. Just bring me the originals, and we'll close the deal. So, you brought him after all, did you?
That's right. And you said something about a get-out-of-jail-free card?
Yeah. But can you give me a good reason why I shouldn't just kill you right now and take them back? Yeah, you did it up right, Steve. Guess my best play is to pay up. And next time I catch you for something, I owe you one. And no hard feelings.
Steve, it's good to talk to you, but if we're going to escape this wedding thing, you'd better start learning some things about Harvest. And I think you might want to start at the lodge. Come back.
I see you've managed to acquire an application. That demonstrates resourcefulness, a desirable trait for prospective members. You need a rest. Report back here for your next assignment.
What do you want, Steve? That's right. I think I got the flu.
Maybe you'd feel better if you stopped watching television and went to bed.
Maybe you'd be quiet with a steak knife in your heart.
What?
Just leave me alone, Steve. Believe me, you got your own problems. Good. Finally.
Hello, dear. How are you today? Don't forget to put the papers out for Jimmy. You know how he gets.
Hey, Steve, you've been doing a swell job putting the paper out in the morning. You just keep doing that and we won't have any problems. That's not much to ask, is it? Swell! Here's the keys to the broom closet at Gein Memorial. That's where they meet every day. About 3:45, as soon as everyone has gone home. Sometimes I hide in there beforehand. Daddy-o, I see some stuff that's real nasty. Take it from me, you made a good swap.
Huh? What?
Screwing in the school broom closet? What will people think?
Are you blackmailing us, you little shit?
Calm down, Mr. Harold. Stephen would never do that. He's a smiley bear. But we should give him a token of our appreciation for his silence. Here, Stephen, take this baseball bat. You'll find it quite useful.
That a boy. Take the bat, and we'll take the photo.
However will I keep the children in line now?
I have a spare I can bring in tomorrow, unless you prefer a chainsaw this time.
I'll talk to Mrs. Phelps.
I take it you wish to be initiated into the mysteries of the Order of the Harvest Moon. Very well. Know then that securing the application was but the first step on your road to enlightenment. Now you must complete a series of tasks to prove your worthiness as an initiate.
What kind of tasks?
Minor pranks, really. Nothing overly difficult. More tests of wit than prowess. But to complete them you must, if you wish to enter these walls.
Minor prank, eh? I'll bet. What have you got in mind?
There is in Harvest a man named Mr. Johnson. He owns a Tucker. It is his pride and joy. I should like you to put a scratch in it.
A scratch? That's all?
As I said, a minor prank. Mind you, you are not to damage the vehicle. Merely put a single scratch in it. Once you have done so, return here, and I shall give you your next task.
Sorry, Steve. Too tired to talk right now. I just gave the Tucker a tune-up. I'll talk to you later. Bye now.
Steve, I'm so glad you came back. What have you been doing?
I visited the lodge. Talked to the sergeant-at-arms there. He knows that there's something out of whack here. He told me if I wanted to find out what it is, I should join the lodge. I've decided to join the lodge, Stephanie. I think the answer to all our questions is inside.
That place. It's so sinister. You may be playing right into their hands. Did you think of that? Doesn't it seem like you're being herded toward the lodge?
That's one of the things I hope to find out.
I hope finding out doesn't get you killed. Come back and visit me soon, okay?
What are you doing here at this hour, Mr. Potsdam?
I'm burying our cat. She passed away and I'm burying her. Go away and mind your own business.
Then, where's the cat?
I left her at home. Now leave me alone! This kind of stuff can come back to haunt you.
did it.
So, you have completed your first task. Now that you've scratched the tucker, you may proceed to your second task. You will steal a bolt of fabric from the fireman and bring it to me. The human mind always seeks to categorize phenomena, to pigeonhole, and therefore feel that it exerts control over an unfathomable universe. A feeling, however, is not a fact. Whatever you may think of the Order is only speculation, a realization which should give you scant comfort, considering that even memory is illusory, a chemical imprint on meat that, like what it is writ upon, must one day decay. If you're interested in reviving the decaying corpse that is your memory, you'll be back. The only answer for you is here, Stephen. Don't forget that.
Welcome to our order.
The hand that grips the life is
Stephanie.
Leave me alone, will ya? This is the good part. I heard that someone took Karen. Little Miss Perfect gonna get famous. Gonna get a picture on a milk carton. Yeah, well, I heard that Karen was gone. So I went over to Miss Fitzgerald's house and asked if I could play with Karen. Her mom just stood there, you know, in the doorway, and cried and cried. And I just stood there, wondering how long it would take for her to stop. But she didn't. So I went inside and watched TV, 'cause they've got color, 'cause Edna has money, 'cause she runs the diner and all. And I sensed she was feeling vulnerable. So I asked her to fix me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And she did. Then I went into Karen's bedroom and looked around for stuff I could take, while Edna was in the bathroom with the water running. But all that there was girl stuff. So I came home. But it was fun while it lasted. I'm evil? You don't know what evil is. Mom says the blood drive is coming, Steve. You'll like that. It's for a good cause. And only bad people don't give. Good. Finally.
Hello, dear. How are you today? By the way, I spoke with Mr. Johnson, and he's livid. Seems someone scratched up his priceless Tucker. If he finds out who, there'll be heck to pay. Edna's daughter, Karen, has disappeared. Karen was playing outside as Edna closed the diner, and that's the last anyone saw of her. I haven't the foggiest idea. All I know is she went missing last night. But Steve, this isn't something you want to be concerned with. Trust me. You should be concentrating on joining the lodge, not some missing girl.
Isn't a lost child everyone's concern?
Then let everyone worry about it. This is nothing but a waste of time for you. If you spend your time in Harvest looking for Karen, you'll regret it.
My time in Harvest? You talk like I'm a visitor, Mom.
Don't be silly, dear. Don't forget to put the papers out for Jimmy. You know how he gets.
There now, see how easy it is? Things are so much better between us when you remember the paper in the morning. And let's keep them that way.
Hello, Steve. Care to buy anything today? Okay, dear. You check back if you decide there's anything you want. I'll be happy to help you. Come back soon. Steve, you live close to Mr. Johnson. How is he taking it? Such wanton vandalism. It just breaks my heart. I'll have to send him a nice fruit basket, though if he wants some new paint and sealant, it'll cost him. Heavens! Did you hear that Karen has disappeared? I saw her playing outside the Wayward Hotel on Tuesday night. The night she vanished.
Did she seem upset or afraid?
Betsy, no. She was under adult supervision, so I didn't think anything of it.
You mean Edna was with her?
No, not Edna. A man. Or an inordinately large woman.
Think about taking some of that siding off my hands, son. I'll cut you a nice price on it. Too bad about Edna's daughter going missing. That was a strange night. I remember that evening. The Potsdam's upstairs bathroom toilet backed up. I've seen folks upset about that stuff, but Mr. Potsdam was just furious. Heck, they even got a downstairs bathroom. But when I told him it'd take most of the night to fix, he stormed out of the house. Some folks are hard to figure. Nice to see you again, Steve.
I can't talk now, son. I'm busy with this game. Dang it if the whole town ain't going to hell. Poor old Johnson, defecating a work of art like that. Well, that's a sure sign that civilization is coming to an end. I heard Edna's daughter Upton disappeared Tuesday night. Yes, sir, aliens got her for sure. All sorts of funny things went on that night. I seen 3 different UFOs over my fields. What's weird is they didn't carve anything. There was lights in the cemetery, and Swell was busy that night too. Tell him about it, Pete.
He don't want to hear about Tuesday.
Danged if I follow you, Steve. Anytime, Steve.
Halt! Who goes there?
It's just me, Steve.
What do you want? Did the llamas send you? That's good. Someone has to keep them in check. I'm glad you stopped by again. I want you to infiltrate those firemen, mister. There's a lot of art going on over there. I want to make sure they haven't turned into commie bastards. You got that? And don't come back unless you've got information for me. Remember, duck and cover.
Boy, the way you keep pestering me, you'd think you were feeling guilty about something. Are you? I got a report here that someone put a ding on Johnson's Tucker. As ornery as Johnson is about that old car, I suppose he had it coming. I imagine it was just some kids pulling a prank. I suppose you've heard the news about Edna's daughter Karen disappearing. I wouldn't think about it too much if I were you. This is a serious crime, and this is no time for civilians to be nosing around playing cops and robbers. Steve, I'd give this advice to my own son, if I had one. Leave this be. This is not the kind of thing you should look into. Sow some wild oats, boy. Kick up your heels. Join the lodge. Join the lodge, Steve, and leave Karen to the professionals. Stop on by any time, Steve.
Kiddo, you brought...
No.
Oh, heck. Why should you be any different from the sheriff or Mrs. Loomis? Steve, I'd be right obliged if you could just see clear to bringing me just one of them books. Believe me, it'll be worth your time to do it. Get it? Oh, I'm not interested in that kind of stuff, Steve. You know what I like, don't you? Hello, Steve. Lovely day, isn't it?
Still sketching the same nude man, I see.
It doesn't behoove one to be fickle. Besides, once you find a perfect model, you don't let him go. Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, that didn't work.
I can't stop and chat, Steve. With Karen gone, if I stop, I think I'll lose my mind. I've got to keep busy. Excuse me. I just heard that Mr. Johnson's Tucker was vandalized. You know, though I don't like to think ill of people or take pleasure in the misfortunes of others, I'd like to think it's a comeuppance for all the times that nasty man has bothered me.
Young man, we really have nothing to say to each other. I hope you haven't come to tell me about that little girl's disappearance. I find such town gossip so dreary. No doubt you find me cold that I do not involve myself with townspeople whom I shall one day eviscerate.
Do you know anything about Karen's disappearance?
She vanished Tuesday night. I remember that night Mr. Potsdam harassed me with banal conversation till the wee small hours of the morning.
Potsdam? What was he doing out so late?
Boring me with idle talk, as I told you. He came in around 11. We were discussing the lights in the cemetery. Potsdam had seen them as I had and investigated them. According to him, a young couple were being intimate out there. Love and death, young man. The two universal forces. The cemetery is quite an aphrodisiac, and such activity is not without precedent.
Then you saw these kids yourself?
No, I saw the light, but didn't investigate. Later on, Potsdam told me what he saw in exquisitely boring detail.
But why would kids who were screwing use a light?
Perhaps they weren't raised properly, and don't know it's impolite not to turn out the lights while engaging in coitus. Who can say? I'd say it's been a pleasure, but I find the company of the living so wearisome.
Thank God I found you. Are you alright, Karen?
I want to go home. Could you take me to my mommy's store? Or to the policeman?
Can you tell me who did this to you?
Mr. Potsdam told me he'd hurt my mommy if I told.
I won't do anything, I promise. Tell me what happened.
He made me play house. Then he dug a hole. Please, I just want to go home now. Please.
Can you tell me your address, honey?
I don't know. Just take me to the store or the policeman. Please. Mommy said to go to the policeman if I got lost. And I'm lost. Bye-bye.
Oh my God. Karen! Thank God. What happened?
Found her in the graveyard. She was buried alive. And she claims Mr. Potsdam was responsible.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you from both of us. Here's the reward money. Take it and go. I need to be alone with my baby right now.
Bye-bye.
I can't talk. I can't.